Well, hello. It looks like we're going to go for a trip over at Mystic Land. This looks very green because it is very green. It's, you know what the date is, middle of May, and we've had plenty of sun and plenty of rain, and that makes for green in the spring. This second shot is of the hedge, which now goes safely all round we actually call it the magic garden or secret garden. It just goes all the way around. It's got 3 entrances, and it's just to make us a bit hidden when we're in there. You can just see the polytunnel through the gap if you look carefully. So move through that entrance, and the first thing we come to are the potatoes. Potatoes are, we have a frost date of last frost of the 1st of May. So we're only 10 days past the frost date, last frost date. So the potatoes are looking quite good there. As you can see to the right of the potatoes, I've got the cover on quite a lot of the land there, which might not even get used at all this season. It will be lying fallow. So over on the right you can see the netting, which is covering strawberries. This is all a brand new laid in bed on lots of lovely compost put in there at the end of last season. And there are actually shallots grown in between the rows of strawberries, but that's not companion planting or anything, that just happens to be. So technically at the end, at the far end of the first up strawberries, and as we get nearer the camera and the sun will get higher in the sky later in the year, we'll come to that place, are the later strawberries. And the netting obviously to keep the birds off. Next door we've got some kale at the back, 2 different types of kale. There's black kale and 1,000-headed kale, and in the foreground is spinach. And it's a small perpetual spinach, so you just wait till it's grown up, then grab it by the hair and then scythe under it. And it's incredible how when it's cooked it goes down to nothing, but you can go back 3 weeks later and do it again. It just comes straight back up again. This next is just slightly further up from the kale, and that's the gazebo, which is now, as you can see, completely overgrown with ivy, and you can see the wisteria is out, and that's covered as well, and that's right up to what would be the roof of the gazebo, but it's just wire that is wound round and round to make the roof, and the ivy and the wisteria are wound round it, and it's all looking quite good. That's lavender that goes round the bed there to make the nice looking walkway. This is the same from a different direction. You can see the entrance is on the left, so that's a between the post sort of entrance, and the rest is all grown up. And so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of windows to look out of, and 1 entrance to go in. I forget how many sides that makes, but that's what it is. And it's all looking in quite good condition because a lot of work's gone into it. Over into the polytunnel, and again remembering that we're only not 2 weeks after the frost date, I'm quite happy that we've got so many things in and in reasonable condition. On the right here are the first determinate tomatoes I've ever grown. Determinate means that they're going to come up and flower and fruit all at one time. and when the fruiting is finished, that's the end of the tomato. There, you take them up and throw them away. Not like normal tomatoes, which just come on and on and on up the plant on different trusses as the season goes on. So it's a bit of an experiment. This is a close-up of the aubergine eggplants that are up the middle of the polytunnel, and there was one night about a week ago that I had them covered with fleece, but the temperature went down to 6 degrees, that's Celsius 6 degrees, and even with the fleece on top, it killed off quite a lot of the leaves. And this is actually new growth that's come on in the last week, so they're growing up quite nice and quickly. This is a normal non-determinate tomato, which is this is the earliest one we got in. I got that in nearly a month ago, and it's sometimes if you put them in too early, they just stunt themselves and never really get going. But this one is meant to be an early tomato, and it's often running, and hopefully this will give us our first tomatoes of the season. We've got 3 basil plants in there. I mean, it doesn't look terrific at the moment, but it's a strong plant, and I'm planning to grow this as a big plant this time. Sometimes I'll leave them quite small, but I'll planning that this one will be at least 3 or 4 foot tall at the very least at the end of the season. And there's different ways you can train basil to grow, and it's just a different way I'm doing it this year with the 3 that are in the polytunnel, and there are a couple more down by the house which we'll do in a different way. Outside again, and these are sweet corn maize, grown inside and only put in a couple of days ago. I think there are 20 in this row, and then there'll be 20 in the next row, and then 20 in the next row, staggered along. We grew them for the first time last year, and they were lovely, so we're doing it again. Outside view of the polytunnel, and this is really just to show that I've moved a 1,000-litre tank down there for the watering of the polytunnel. It doesn't look like it'll need 1,000-litre at the moment with the little plants in it. By the time the all the peppers and cucumbers and everything gets growing up, when it takes regular watering, if there's any sort of a drought, it'll need all of that. It's a ton of water, but it'll soon take it because it gets damn hot in there. Right outside the secret garden, these are the trees we planted. These are 2 plum trees. This is the green gage, they call it, which I think is going to fruit properly for the first time this year, as is the Mirabelle plum behind it. For the last few seasons, 2 or 3, we've had storms in springtime at the time of flowering, and the pollination just hasn't got itself done properly. But we've had a good pollination this year, I think, and everything's going to be fine. Going back to the top, and pear trees and apple trees, I'm quite happy with the shape of them, and again seems as though fertilized up quite well, and we are at least going to get some fruit off those trees. This is the fig tree that I dug out the base of yesterday. It is confined in a pot, which should make it more fertile, make it throw fruit better. But it's quite a hard tree to, well, I'm finding it quite hard to get the fruit to fruit at the right time. But in this picture you can see there's already good sized fruit on it, so this year I would definitely think that particular one there and his friends should come through, and we should have plenty of figs. and that's always a nice thing to have. This might look grotty, and but this is where an awful lot of my work goes. These pallet made compost bins are lasting really quite well, because I mean it's a hard life being a compost bin, and they're only just about standing now, but standing they are. And this takes an awful lot of my time and effort because of all the grass clippings from the land. They're all used in compost, so it's a question of mixing that green with browns, and the browns are collected in the autumn and stored up ready to mix with them, and it takes an awful lot of forking about with compost. This is the last shot, the top. These are 2 almond trees which have never ever given an almond, and really we should never have grown them, because the blossom comes too early in the season, February sometimes, and it really is too early, and something always comes to ruin it, and we never had an almond off either of them. So I'll probably take my new chainsaw to them and replace them with something, because they're not that pretty either. So all in all, that's it. A trip round Mystic Land, which really is in very good order, because we've had time and weather to get out and put it in decent order, and for the middle of May I'm very happy with the way it is. So I hope you enjoyed watching. That's it. Thank you, bye.